On Christmas Day in 1944, right in the middle of the Battle of the Bulge, a German mother and her 12-year-old son created a peace treaty, a little truce, right in the middle of the Battle of the Bulge. 3 American soldiers were lost in the Ardennes. 2 of them were carrying one who was severely wounded. They had been lost for 3 days, nothing to eat. They come upon a small cabin in the woods of the Ardennes. Well, they knocked on the door. It was the home of a lady by the name of Elizabeth Duncan and her son Fritz. She went to the door, and there stood 2 American soldiers, one laying in the snow bleeding. Now, she didn't speak English and they didn't speak German, so they stood there for a while. But she realized that they very easily could have taken their rifles and just walked in and taken what they wanted. She thought they didn't do that. They knocked on the door. So she decided to let them in her house. And they did. Well, she decided to fix them a meal. But Fritz and her, all they had left was 1 chicken, an old rooster, some potatoes, a little bit of bread, and some wine. So she started to cook that meal. Well, there was another knock on the door. She thought it was probably some more American soldiers. She opened the door, and to her horror, it was 4 German soldiers. Now, she knew the penalty for harboring American troops. It's execution immediately. But she tried to take a chance. Just like the American soldiers, they hadn't busted into her house. They had knocked on the door. Those 4 Germans, 3 of them were 16, 1 of them was 23. So she closed the door behind her and she stepped out and she talked to those 4 German soldiers. She said, "This is Christmas Day. It is the holiest day of all. There will be no shooting in my house tonight. You're welcome to come in my house, but if you come in, you must realize there's 3 American soldiers in there, and one of them is severely wounded." So that's what they did. The German soldiers left their rifles outside. She went back in the house and she talked to the 3 American soldiers as best she could. She said, "You will have to take your rifles outside." So they did. Well, the German soldiers went in, and as luck would have it, one of those German soldiers spoke English, and he was also a medic. So he took care of the wounded American soldier. Stopped his bleeding, gave him some pain pills, and did what she could for him. Well, later that night, they all sat down together, and they had a meal. Now, the truce went on all night long. They all slept on the floor. So, in the morning, the German soldiers got up, and they gave the 3 American soldiers a compass and a map, and they told them the way back to their lines. The German soldiers picked up their rifles and went the other way. The truce was over. Now, Fritz and her mother, they survived the war. In the 60s, his mother passed away, but Fritz had now got married and had a family of his own. He moved his family to Honolulu, Hawaii, and opened a bakery shop. But in all those years, he had been telling this story about the truce in the middle of the Battle of the Bulge. He told it to everybody. He wanted to find those 3 American soldiers and there's 4 German soldiers. He told it everywhere he could, but to no avail. He didn't realize that how much had got out, because in 1985, President Reagan, in a speech to the German people at the Berlin Wall, he talked about that little truce in the middle of the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. But it wasn't until 10 years later that a TV show came out called Unsolved Mysteries. They did a show on this truce, this little truce in the middle of the Battle of the Bulge. Well, lo and behold, somebody called from a nursing home in Frederick, Maryland. And they said, "This gentleman in our nursing home He's telling us almost the same story. So Fritz decided to fly to Frederick, Maryland and talk to this man. His name was Ralph Blank. It was the wounded soldier. He still had the compass. He still had the map. He told Fritz that his mother and him had saved his life. Now Fritz tried to find all the rest of them, but he never found any of the German soldiers. He found one more, the American soldier had passed away, and the other American soldier was killed at the Battle of the Bulge. He never got home. Fritz Vinken died 2002 on Christmas Day, 58 years to the day of the little truce in the middle of the Battle of the Bulge.